From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, a big mailbag. Should Florida State throw their ace Friday against Tennessee? Does Florida State have the next Bobby Bowden and Mike Martin duo with Link Jarrett and Mike Norvell? And Mike Norvell, should he be on radio, TV, taking shots at the folks who betrayed the Noles in the playoff in 23? Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO, Warchant, BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Box of 12 becomes 24 when you use that promo code Warchant BOGO. Try the variety pack. Hopefully you've tried the variety pack by now and you've settled on one of these that you really like a lot. Maybe have your buddy who might not all be that into energy shots get you that one and tell him to use a promo code so you can keep using it. Life hack, everybody. Don't know if corporate likes me saying that, but that could be potentially a life hack. VitaminEnergy.com. Noles in control, setting it all up. Help out some Noles, y'all. Help us out. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. Rate. Review. Download. Everything possible when it comes to looking at a website, looking at a podcast, downloading, and all that kind of stuff. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey Clark, lead senior writer for aforementioned website, Warchant.com, in the house. Corey, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Aslan. How are you? You doing okay?
That wasn't very believable. Corey, you want to try it again with more feeling this time?
No, that's how I feel. I'm wonderful. But
okay.
You know me. I'm not going to be
right.
Well, wouldn't that be weird if I was all giggly and excited? Like, that's not me. That's not what people want to hear.
Right. You're like a charming curmudgeon, but not so
right.
More charming than curmudgeon. Hey, before we start, any dinner recommendations in the Marietta area for our guy Dave in Bardstown? He's going to be out there later on in the year for some sort of class.
No, I don't live out there. That's like an hour away from where I live. The Big Chicken, I think, is over there somewhere.
Okay.
It's like a landmark, but I don't even know if it's still a restaurant. It
Okay.
used to be like a KFC, and they would call it the Big Chicken because the chicken was 20 feet high.
Nice.
So you could see it, I guess, from Stone Mountain. I don't know. But, yeah, so, no, I don't. In the Marietta area, no, I do not. I apologize for that.
20 feet, or as some people would say, the fence on top of the right field at Dick Hauser Stadium at its peak, but now just 10 feet on top of that wall.
No, I think at its peak it's like 30.
I know, because the wall is 10, and then there's 20 feet of fencing, but now there's only 10 feet of fencing.
Yeah, correct. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, buddy. We always mix that up. But I wonder.
Well, people say that too.
It's a 30-foot fence, right? That's behind the wall. Don't you think? I've never looked that closely. Is the fence attached to the wall, or is it behind the wall and just goes up like a foot?
You're right. Yeah, but there's not there's the 10 feet at the bottom isn't. It's like 10 feet of pole behind the wall, and then it's like 20 feet of fence, because I don't think behind the wall directly is fencing, which we're getting really too far into the weeds on this.
It's fine. People want to know. People have wondered about this for years.
Speaking of baseball, they're not going to have to worry about a 30-foot tall fence wall combination, which, by the way, Tom Hartwood kept saying, catch at the fence. And it's like, no, in Georgia, and it's like, man, that's just the wall. There's no fence there, just the wall. They're going to have to worry about a very expansive outfield, though, at, I think now, Charles Schwab Field or Charles Schwab Stadium. I don't think it's called TD Ameritrade.
It's not TD Ameritrade anymore?
No, man, nothing's holy. Nothing's sacred anymore in this day and age.
You're right.
So Florida State headed out to Omaha on Wednesday afternoon. We were able to catch up with Coach Link Jarrett before the Noles left. I think there was dozens, I could maybe say dozens of people seeing them off on the bus out of Hauser to catch their flight. And as you had theorized, Corey, sounds like Jamie Arnold's going to get the start on Game 1 against Tennessee Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time against the Vols. Makes sense. He didn't write it in blood, but I feel like he's going to start Jamie. I mean, he said it as much, right?
Yeah. I mean, he intimated at it. And it would be weird to do that and then not pitch him. I guess maybe you don't want to let Tennessee know for sure, but yeah, man, there's no need to save him till Sunday You need to. Your really only chance of winning this thing is to win your first game, and you want your best arm out there, and you're going to need your best arm because that's a really good offense he's facing.
So we got that. We'll see how everything plays out there. But I mean, he seemed to have realized the importance, and he's obviously been out there before 2 years ago with Notre Dame about just how vital it is to start off 2-0 out there. Because I was trying to find, Corey, and I couldn't find it out, so I'm sorry I'm even bringing this up. But I was just curious how many teams out in Omaha have like started like 1-1 and then made it to the finals or won it all, because we keep hearing about starting off 2-0, and I totally get that. You want to start off 2-0, you make it to the semifinal, and then, you know, if you win that game, you're in the championship series. If you lose that game, you have another shot against the team that came out of the losers bracket. But there's nothing more like false security. There's no bigger sense, like the more deceptive feeling than going up 1-0 out there in Omaha, much the way they did back in 2019. It's like, man, we just won our first game. We control our destiny. We're in the winner's bracket. Because if you lose that second game, so it is about starting Jamie Arnold and winning the first game, obviously, but just as much pressure will be on Jamie Arnold Friday is going to be on Carson Dorsey, whether it's a win-or-go-home game or it's a game to go up 2-0, because you do have to string that 2-0 start, seemingly, to make it to the finals. I think the only team, what I did find, Corey, is there only one team, I think, in the last 20 years has lost the first game and then won it all. And I shouldn't say that. No, I think there only one team has done that since they've gone to the new ballpark, and it was Oregon State in 2018 when they beat Arkansas. They lost their first game, but then rolled everybody else. Well, they didn't roll everybody else, but they made their way through the bracket to win it all. So,
yeah, man, it's just hard. I mean, number one, you're facing it's really good teams out there. It's hard to win. It's hard to beat really good baseball teams. Just like Florida State is going to be hard to beat, so's whoever they're going to play. It's going to be hard to win, and you just getting up 2-0 gives you some breathing room. It gives you some margin for error, because if you lose one of those first two games, I mean, you're just fighting for your life the rest of the way.
Yep.
And baseball's a funny game, man. It's a goofy sport. I mean, Tennessee lost to Evansville. Florida State almost lost to UConn. Oklahoma did lose to UConn. Georgia had to go win twice in their regional, and then lost in their super regional. Like, it's just hard to win these games. So giving yourself the prospect of winning whatever you'd have to win 4 straight games, right?
yes.
4, I think, to get to the championship
No,
series?
3. If you go 3-0, you're in there.
No, I'm saying if you lose the first game.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. You're right.
I think you have to win 4 in a row.
Correct.
And then you have to win 2 out of 3. So you have to go 6-1 essentially to win a national championship if you lose that first game.
And that only loss can be in the championship series.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Against the best teams in the country. That's hard to do. Like, you look at Florida State almost lost to UConn, who is not as good as any of these teams, not close.
I don't know.
If Jackson, I mean, they're just not, like, over the course of a season. But they can win a game, as they showed against Oklahoma, and almost showed against Florida State.
And they beat Duke. I mean, they came out of a really tough regional.
They did, but my point is that they aren't talented enough to go win a national championship, in my opinion. Because if you get Virginia, obviously Tennessee has 4 guys that might be selected in the first 50 picks of the draft.
Florida State's got 2.
2 of the top, according to Baseball America, 2 of the top 15. Tennessee has like number 21, number 23, number 41, number 52, number 60. Like, they got some guys too. But if you win that game, then it ain't like it's much easier.
Yeah.
Virginia's got guys. Clearly, North Carolina's got guys. So they got first-rounders too. So it's just you give yourself that margin for error is the key to the whole thing, because it's so hard to win just a game out there, and to win 4 in a row against that caliber of team is just asking for a lot. It's asking for a lot, probably too much. That's why you said how many. Oregon State's the only team that's done it
Since they've gone to the new ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah, South Carolina did it. I think their first championship way back when, whenever that was, 2010 or 9 to 10, I think. They lost their first game and then stormed back and won the whole thing. But yeah, man, it's very, very difficult. So that being said, your best chance, really, in my opinion, your only chance, is to win game 1. And Jamie Arnold gives you the best chance. It's not automatic. Clearly, Tennessee's really good, and in that conference, they face really good pitchers. maybe none as good as this kid.
No, definitely not last weekend. Nobody from Evansville was throwing what they're going to see from Jamie
Correct.
Arnold.
So, yeah, this is going to be one of the best pitchers they faced. On the flip side, this is going to be one of the best offenses. It's going to be the best offense that Jamie Arnold has faced. So, luckily, you think the park will help out if you pitch to contact and you don't walk guys. And Jamie Arnold, knock on wood, has been great about not walking guys. Yeah. His strikeout to walk ratio is insane. And I looked it up. So last year they hit 35 home runs. There were 35 home runs hit in the College World Series total.
Nice.
So what is that? That's probably 2 a game. So not like maybe 10 years ago when it felt like there were 6 hit for the whole weekend or the whole week, 2 weeks. They're like 8 or 10. So, we do know the balls are livelier. The ball will carry a little bit more. So home runs are going to be a part of this thing, which is great. It won't be like it is when you're playing in Hauser, though. So be interesting to watch. But the point that Link was making about, it's a lot of ground to cover. So those outfielders need to go make some plays.
That's the one thing you might kind of lose some sleep over is whether or not the Florida State's outfield, talented bats, all those guys, Ferrer, Williams, and Tibbs, if they can, stay disciplined and hustle things down and not get too many gappers that create problems for them. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. Last thing on the Arnold thing, which, again, I don't think Link is deacon us on it, but he mentioned that you start thinking about when you can recycle Jamie, basically like getting another start out of him or another, 3 or 4 innings. So clearly it makes sense to throw him out there Friday, because if you throw him on Sunday, they're just, you're pretty much only going to get him one time until you get to the championship series if you're that fortunate. So it would surprise me if he ends up going back on what he tipped us off on.
So how would that work? So he would pitch, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves, granted. So if they win on Friday,
yes.
Well, they play on Sunday regardless.
Right. But
they win on Friday, and then they win on Sunday.
They play Wednesday.
Play again on Wednesday.
Yep.
Well, then he could pitch again theoretically that day, or he could pitch Thursday.
Yeah,
5 days of rest.
If they lose that game Wednesday, they play again on Thursday, and then he could throw on that game too. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. So
but Dorsey is probably not going to be available for either of those games. Whoever starts for you on Sunday is definitely not available on Wednesday, and probably not available Thursday.
Well, they would be available like Jamie Arnold was available in the ACC tournament. Like you could be available for an inning because you got to throw a bullpen anyway. Right. So they could hold them for an inning. Ben, I think Link is the kind of guy that if they have a 3-run lead in the 8th inning and Dorsey tells them he's fresh and ready to go, and you can lock up a spot in the championship series, or Arnold would be absolutely fresh on Wednesday.
Yeah,
and that's that's the thing is like, okay, so Arnold hadn't pitched since Friday. You won Friday, you won Sunday. Now you're 5-2 in the 8th inning against Virginia on Wednesday. I think I might run Arnold out there to get the final 6 outs.
Yeah, man, if Connor Whitaker, again, if they start off 2-0 and you're in that game on Wednesday and Connor Whitaker's starting that game Wednesday, I think you look at Connor, you're like, hey, man, get us 18 outs.
Yeah.
We think Jamie can probably get the rest of it done.
Yeah, Oxford is good. Like, Oxford's been really good. I don't want to overlook him, but I'm just saying if you need 3 outs or 5 outs, and it's to get to the championship series, and Arnold is going to pitch that. I want people to understand Arnold would pitch that day anyway for a bullpen, to be loose, to keep his arm ready. That is normal. That is what college pitchers do. They'll throw a bullpen even when they're not pitching, and those are real pitches. It's not just warming up your arm. It's simulated pitches. Well, instead of simulating those 35 pitches, go ahead and throw them in a real game, Jamie. And then you probably wouldn't pitch the first game of the championship series, but what does it matter? You're going to pitch one of the first 2, so then you pitch him the second game, and he should be fresh and ready to go. That's just Clark speaking out loud. That's a lot of ifs. We don't obviously know if they're going to make it even make it to a 3rd game. But if they're 2-0, I would definitely have Jamie Arnold ready to go.
Hey, it's been 5 years since we've been in this position. Let us enjoy it. Let us postulate and think what's going to happen out here. All right, let's get on the ponies then. Renegade Express mailbag time, y'all. Courtesy of our great friends over at Cummins, generating discussion. We'll see who wins and gets the option to get a possible portable power station at the end of the year, but they will be entered into a drawing for a monthly swag bag. Invictus Seminole With the hires of Penske, Jarrett, Norvell, the football-only facility, renovations at Doak, and rumors of a new baseball stadium, is Michael Alford getting dangerously close to being the most impactful AD that Florida State has ever had? And if Alford successfully extricates a program for this godforsaken conference, who gets a statue first, him or Mickey?
So remember when Time, I think it was Time, maybe it was Life, gave like the most impactful person of the 20th century to Adolf Hitler?
Stop.
Well, they did.
Really?
Because it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many people died? Millions upon millions of people died because of that nutso. By the way, really good documentary on Netflix about his rise. I think I'm 3 episodes through. It's like 6, but it's really well done. And they talk about Nuremberg trials and all that stuff.
Any parallels to today's society at all?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
No, I
Moving
meant more
on.
parallels to Michael Alford in that either way, no matter if it breaks right or breaks horribly left, Michael Alford is going to be one of the most impactful ADs Florida State has ever had because he's the AD when all of this tumult is happening.
Yes.
And he and the administration and the powers that be in Florida State are kind of in control of the foreseeable future of Florida State athletics in a way that nobody else has been since. Was it Bob Goyne that was the AD when they joined the ACC? Like, it has been a long time since an AD had this much at stake. So either way, hopefully he gets them into a great conference, one of the two, and they're making tons of money. But if they break out of the ACC and don't have a landing spot somehow, and then they're playing independent against Tulsa and Notre Dame every other week, yeah, that will still be a huge impact that Michael Alford made on Florida State. So, yes, either way, he is quite impactful. And I want to reiterate, I was not comparing Michael Alford to Adolf Hitler. It was just that's the first thing that came to my mind is like you can be impactful in great ways or horrible ways. I think Michael Alford, I'm going to go on record, he's a much better person than Adolf Hitler. But also, I think he's doing I think he's doing a really good job and has been very, very positive for Florida State. But it all hinges on where this thing ends up in a year or two, right?
Who's Franz Ferdinand in this analogy? Is it Jim Phillips?
Well, Franz Ferdinand was World War I, Aslan. So that I would say Franz Ferdinand.
But that created
Adolf Hitler. That created the rise of Germany nationalism. I would say maybe that would be Swafford then.
Okay.
Yeah, Swafford was at the whatever. I don't know the name of the captain. Maybe it was Captain Smith on the Titanic. That's who Swafford is.
Okay.
That's who Swafford is.
Just want the record to reflect, though, however, that Michael Alford did not hire Mike Norvell, so that he doesn't get that pelt. But he did hire Penske and Jarrett, and all this other stuff is happening.
he kept Mike Norvell, which is a big deal.
I mean,
he kept Mike Norvell. He's kept Alameda. He hired Link Jarrett. He's going to have to make a basketball hire here soon. So, yeah, man, his impact on the future of Florida State sports at this tumultuous time in this ever-changing landscape, I think Florida State is very, very lucky to have him in charge. But if it doesn't work out with the conference, it all hinges on that. It doesn't matter how many softball games you win or how many times Link gets to Omaha. If they don't find a landing spot in one of those two conferences soon after they break from the ACC, then, yeah, that's how he'll always be judged.
I can't imagine that happening, though. Like, there's no way all this is happening. They don't. I'm not saying like handshake agreements or anything, but just there's no way they become available and then everyone's like, we'll pass. But hey, that's just one man's opinion with a $300 microphone in front of him. Bourbon is your friend. It's Dave, Corey. All right, fine. I'll ask. Who exactly are the animals? The animals of Section B, obviously, is what Dave is referring to. The loud and proud bunch that power the Noles. I don't know I think we all know how the O Canada thing started, but I don't know how they became to be. If they all just ended up in Section B one time, or if like 3 of them had season tickets and then invited a couple of guys over. Hey man, like, what are you doing all over there? Come over here, hang out with us. I don't know their origin story, but they are they've got to be, I don't know, one of the top 5 most dedicated, notoriety, fan base in all of like college sports, right?
It says here that Albert Einstein was the person of the century for Time magazine.
Okay,
but Hitler was definitely on the list.
You want me to go back and delete all that then?
Along with Mussolini. No, because he was on the list, and there was a controversy. That was it. There was a controversy about him being on the list at all, but clearly he was very, very impactful. Yeah, no, the animals, I don't know. You're right. I don't know the origin story. I know I had to be in the mid-'80s, early to mid-'80s, and they're just – I don't know if they have like an initiation.
77. Sorry, Corey. Their Facebook page says they date all the way back to 77.
They predate Mike Martin as the head coach. They were there for Dick Hauser was the head coach, I think, in 77. So yeah, they've been there, and I don't know how many original members from 77 are still there. I would guess, obviously how life works, very, very few. But, Johnny Mack has been there for a long, well, I think Johnny Mack has been like 15, 18 years, but he feels to me like kind of the ringleader now. You'll see him when they show the animals, and I don't know how you join. I really don't. I should ask. I think they just welcome everyone. I know I've been to their tailgates. They're very welcoming there. So I think they welcome everyone, but it's a section of, I don't know, what would you say, Aslan, 40? When it's a big game, 30 to 40?
Yeah.
They're all standing up. They have their chants. They have their cheers.
Their props. Yeah.
Their props and everything. And that's why I was talking about the K-Time thing last week, is because the whole stadium, all 6,000, 5,500, whatever it is, they take their cue from that section and B. They take their cue from Section B. So when they're great, the whole crowd is great. And when they're doing K-Time loud, the whole stadium is loud. And they're a huge part of FSU baseball.
Finding this over on Knoll Fan from 2011. It was written after Drew Hankin, who was the zookeeper, passed away. He was also he ran the Section B message board, which eventually got enveloped over at warchant.com. But I digress. According to the story by Jim Jonas, some old fans believe that the animals evolved out of a fan group that existed even before 77 and was organized around supporting an individual player, a first baseman. That group carried a paddle with the player's picture on it and waved it during games. So that's, all right. I guess, how they ended up on maybe that side of the stadium, if you will. So, yeah, it's incredible, man. And it was cool to realize that Jim Penders from UConn probably wanted to MF every single one of them during the game, but after the game was like really gracious and seemed kind of, I don't want to say honored, but, embraced the fact he was able to come down to Tallahassee and play in front of this crowd, and namely those folks. So that's pretty cool. Moving along. Adam CZ, it's Mark. He agrees with my sentiment that I posted in the thread that baseball's quest for a College World Series is one of the most underreported stories in all of sports. ACC Network certainly won't cover that, but to me, Jordan Travis's story has gone largely unnoticed in sports regarding, or rather, reporting outside of Tallahassee. Transfers from Louisville to a struggling FSU team. Not sure Willie even knew he was on the roster. He doubts himself. Either wanted to quit football or was told maybe he should change positions. Said he was not a real quarterback by people. Even Norvell, who's a wonderful coach and leader, as we all know, wanted to replace Jordan with a quarterback who essentially had one leg, but Jordan kept working, believing in himself, and by 23 was easily an invite to New York City and had a great chance to lead Florida State to its 4th national title before catastrophic injury on a dirty tackle while trying to spark his team and make a play with his tremendous talents. And then the defense rises up and literally becomes unstoppable against some pretty good offenses in big games and a historical effort to finish the job for 13. I mean, that's a remarkable story of perseverance and faith. Oh, yeah, he's a great young man and did it the right way. Enough said. Link in the squad. Destroy everything in your path in Omaha. Let's hope baseball has a great time playing in Omaha. They deserve it no matter the outcome. Go Noles.
Hey, all that's well said.
Amen,
there was no question in there, was there?
Nope.
All right.
He did start off with this time of year is fun again, huh, boys? Yes.
It is. It is. Like, it gives us something. Hopefully we got the next 2 weeks, we've got actual stuff to talk about that's happening, like, on the sports field. But, yeah, man, it's cool. It's just, as you guys can tell, we're both baseball fans. We're certainly big Link Jarrett fans. In the last 4 years, it's been awesome what's happened to the football program, but the last 3 years have been depressing in basketball, and they've been really depressing in baseball because the baseball program was one of the tops in the country. The basketball team was never like a perennial top 8, top 10 power that you said along. You wouldn't go North Carolina, Duke, Florida State, Kansas, but in baseball, you would say, I don't know, Tennessee, LSU, Florida State, Arizona State, Stanford. Like all those perennial powers, Florida State belonged. And so the last 3 or 4 years have been, depressing. So it's really, really neat that they're back and they're going to be on the national stage again. And they have a really good team and apparently an awesome baseball coach.
Yep. Amen, brother. Old Dad's a Nole. Wake up. How different would all the conversations be regarding teams leaving, monies, playoff representation, etc. if the Notre Dame, I want to say University of Notre Dame University. How would this all be different, Corey, if Notre Dame announced Monday that they will join the ACC full-time next season?
Well, if they announced that they would join full-time and they were bringing NBC with them, then, yeah, man, it changes a lot. Because then I think Notre Dame is a big enough brand with TV partners, thinking about TV partners, that, I think that makes the ACC a player again. I mean, that's how much power they have. That they would completely save and embolden a conference if they joined. But they won't join. And they will not join, but they still got to play for a conference championship, even though they don't play a conference schedule. And that will always piss me off. Why did they get that? What did they do for this conference? Yeah, they give you 5 games a year with big ratings. What has that done? Has that saved the conference, Aslan? I ask you, where we are in 2024. Has Notre Dame playing 5 conference games done anything for this conference?
No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, if they played in the ACC as a full member and played ACC football and played in ACC championship games that were in this conference, and their brand was something that ESPN had to, think about when they're doing their look-in whatever that is, 2026. Do you think that might help the ACC?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not going to do it, so screw them. And I say screw them in the sense that it just still angers me that you let them play in an ACC championship game when they're not a member of the ACC. It's why would you do that for them? You could have said right then, we will absolutely let you play Clemson and Charlotte during this weird COVID season. You get to, and then you could go compete for a national championship, but you sign that document tomorrow that you're a full member. They wouldn't have done it, but it would have been, then you could have put North Carolina in the game. But either way, it would change everything. What would be so funny is that ACC welcomed Notre Dame in, but Notre Dame had the stipulation, we keep this percentage of the whole TV deal. In the ACC, I think, would kind of bend over backwards to let that happen, to save the conference. Meanwhile, it never occurred to them to do that to Florida State, which is on almost on Notre Dame's level as a ratings giant. They have a Notre Dame caliber program in their conference that they never acquiesced to. They never tried to keep. They never tried to give them a bigger portion of the pie because they were baking most of the pie. They still had to cut up the slivers with all the other teams that don't make any money for the conference. So that's what – yes. So if Notre Dame came in, it would save everything if they were willing to take an equal share, which they would not be willing to do because they're smarter than that.
I feel like that'd be almost a worst case if they decide to come to the ACC because I don't think anybody wants to stay in this conference. And if they did that, you would have to probably seriously pause and consider, oh my gosh, are we going to walk back the lawsuit and we're going to try to make good because this actually kind of makes sense for us to stick around. But I think to your point, for it to financially make sense, Notre Dame they'd have to give some stuff up, which, listen, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're like, no, I'm not doing that. So, I mean, I kind of get it from their standpoint as well, too. Yeah, don't do that, Notre Dame. Be independent. I want out of here. I don't want to play Syracuse anymore. I don't want to play Boston College anymore. I don't want to play Wake anymore. I still don't want to do it, Corey.
No, I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. But if maybe the SEC or Big Ten does not work out, that is a really – because that with Notre Dame and what they bring to the table would not put you on par with the Big Ten and the SEC as far as a TV deal, but it would get you a lot closer than you are now because you'd have Notre Dame and Florida State, two ratings giants, which ESPN would absolutely have to think about. But I don't foresee that happening.
Cummins Lifestyles posted something, Corey, on the boards.
Okay.
Wake up, gentlemen. I'm beyond excited to see the Seminoles headed back to Omaha. Good feelings about this team. Don't disagree with any of that. Curious. What more do we need to see from Mike Norvell and Link Jarrett to begin believing we have a Bowden-Martin 2.0 combination? Is it a pipe dream to think we could have these two coaches around for another 10 or 20 years? And which one is most likely to have longevity? I mean, do we give that question? That's going to generate some discussion.
No, we can't do it. No way. So they're going to be in their own free drawing?
I mean, we got to.
No, we can't do that. It's a good question. It's a fair question, but no, we got to keep it rolling for one of the loyal subscribers. Not that they're not a loyal subscriber and listener, but they generators they want all the swag they want. Let's keep it for the people.
All right.
It's like Bill at Corner Pocket. He's not allowed to win bingo or trivia.
We used to
already
have
running the place.
Remember we used to do we would do over-unders, and we would give away, this is before we gave away Garnet and Gold gift cards. We would give away, I think, T-shirts. Maybe even when we started doing over-under and giving away Garnet and Gold gift cards. But mods, moderators on the website would enter, and they, one time they won, and I think they might have won a second time, and I told Gene, I'm not giving it. It says, we don't pay the moderators, but I'm still though, they get a free membership on the website, I think, at least. I'm not going to, take away a gift that goes to a paying subscriber, but I digress. 10 to 20 years. I mean, I don't think it's a pipe dream to think that Link's going to just make this his life's work. Although who knows, man? Maybe if he does win 1 ring or 2 rings, and then I don't know if we keep, we don't keep saying, but you brought it up about how Major League Baseball doesn't look at college coaches any longer for whatever reason, at least for head coaching jobs.
I feel like Dick Hauser was the last one. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I feel like Dick Hauser was the last one. Steinbrenner hired him away from Florida State, and then, of course, fired him because that's what Steinbrenner did. But then he ended up winning a World Series 7 or 8 years later. And that was you would have thought he'd be like a that's not that. It's the opposite of a cautionary tale.
Right.
It's like, hey, man, they hired a college baseball coach, and they won a World Series, and win another one for 30 years in Kansas City. So I don't know, man. I think that you would think it happened more often, but it just never does. No, you never hear the guy at Tennessee or name a program. You never hear about them being bandied about for the Phillies job.
Right.
But Dan Hurley just had to turn down the Lakers.
Coward.
You hear these college coaches, Jim Harbaugh's going back to the pros. It just doesn't happen in baseball.
I know. Georgia's coach, we used to be at Mississippi State, and he left Mississippi State to go be the Twins pitching coach. But, yeah, that's not being the head coach or the manager, obviously.
So with that being said, if that's not something that Major League Baseball is ever going to be interested in again, I can't figure out why Link would ever leave until he retires.
He did mention in the interview today, Corey, that right now it's in the portal. It's talent warfare. It's facilities warfare.
Yes.
But he did look around and point and kind of say, hey, look, we've done some stuff around here. So if there's ever a point where he wasn't, you get maybe a Jimbo situation, but he's obviously probably a little bit more level-headed, but maybe he feels like he's not getting enough support. Maybe that would lead him to go somewhere that's going to double his salary and give him a 3-tiered stadium. But absent that, Michael Alford played college baseball. He went and got Link, made a really big, bold move to get him. I think Link is going to have all the resources that he'll need, maybe not wants, but everything that he'll need to continue to be successful. So I wouldn't imagine him getting poached.
Yeah, and I don't think college baseball is nearly as stressful as football. Obviously, money, the money of football makes it more stressful, the ratings, the pressure. I just don't know as much the way Norvell is wired. I don't know that he can. I don't know if it's tenable to be like that for another 15 years. I just would be very surprised if he's here in the mid 2030s.
Even
I hope
Kirby
he
though,
is.
right? It's sport wide. Like this isn't a Mike Norvell thing. Like it would
Yes,
be
correct.
shocking if Kirby Smart is still at Georgia in 12 years.
But
from now.
Link, it's like what challenge would he want? Like even if he wins a national championship or two at Florida State, where would he go? Stanford, Cal State Fullerton, NC State? Like where would he go? This is his home. This is his alma mater. He loves this city and loves this place and loves this university. And they're going to pay him enough that he can live comfortably for the rest of his life. Would he go to like a couple extra 100,000? It just feels like he's a guy that could retire here. That seems. I would bet even money on that at this point that he retires here.
Agreed. Even money on that one.
You know who isn't from Tallahassee, Aslan?
Mike Norvell?
Adolf Hitler. So I looked up the A&E top 100 most influential people of the millennium.
Oh boy.
Not just of the 1900s, but the century, the whole millennium. And he was number 16.
Okay.
Guess who number 1 is? Because I remember A&E doing this at the time, and I actually nailed it about, I don't know, episode with 14 left. I nailed it because I was looking at the people on the list. Who do you think was the most influential person from year 1000 to year 2000?
1080. Wait, was that Genghis Khan or no? Genghis Khan was he BC? My guy Genghis Khan. Bill Gates.
No, fair guess. Gutenberg.
Oh, the printing press.
Because he invented the printing press with all those stories that they'd been hearing vocally and having to pass it around like a game of telephone. People actually got to write down their stories, and then they were mass-produced. And so Gutenberg was the number 1 most influential person of the 20th century.
Nice. Well deserved.
Yeah, I think so, too. And a little history for our listeners.
Absolutely.
Let me look up Bill Gates. Bill Gates was 41.
Oh, not even close.
Pretty good, though, man. He made the top 50.
He made Windows. He made Windows.
That's right. That's true.
Let's go to Seminole Life here, Corey. Wake up, fellas. What do you guys think has led to the lack of superior linebacking recruits in play for Florida State University? This problem isn't new to Florida State University, but it's not like we haven't had some great ones through the years. Why are we unable to keep consistency here? Priority? And I know this isn't the way it works out, Corey, when it comes to generating discussion, where I lecture people. They're asking us questions that generates discussion. And I don't want to lecture anybody, Corey, but I want to fire up the cameras. I want to fire up the generator.
All right.
I want to thank our great friends over at Cummins, generating discussion. Go to Cummins Lifestyle, everybody. It's just a click. We're not asking you to spend any money. Just tap, click. Follow Cummins Lifestyle, all one word on Instagram. Best question each week gets entered into a drawing for a monthly swag bag giveaway. All weekly winners go into a grand prize drawing. End of the year, free portable generator or portable power station. These things are awesome. You're going to want to win one. Be a member, post a question. My question, Corey, is like, I just don't get it, man. I know I diminished linebacker play, but like, can anybody name more than 3 linebackers on national championship teams over the last 10 years? What has happened at Florida State to where we sit here and we wonder, man, if only we had a linebacker? Alabama had Will Anderson, 2 years ago? I think they lost 3 games. That was like the worst in Saban's tenure. He had the number 1 overall pick at quarterback, and he had this awesome linebacker, and they still ended up losing a bunch of games. And I get it, man. Like, you want to have awesome dudes everywhere, but the game of football has changed. Like, that hard-hitting face of your defense linebacker, like, they just don't really exist all that much. So I wonder, Corey, maybe you can answer both of these questions. I wonder why there is so much worry about this, and maybe you have a theory as to why that is and why they haven't gotten another Telvin Smith here in the last 10, 15 years.
Well, I feel like you just answered it there. Like, Telvin Smith was a long time ago, man. He was a high 4-star. You also got Matthew Thomas, I think, in 13 maybe, was a 5-star. And since then, not a lot of...
Lars Woodby was a 5-star linebacker.
Yeah, but he came in as a safety. So you and he wasn't... I love you, Jaden. You weren't a 5-star. So I wonder, I just think it's the culmination of literally like 10 or 12 years of always seemingly missing out on one position. over and over and over again. Now, it used to be that way with the offensive line. It is not anymore. They bring in good guys. They also have a good coach who coaches them up well. They hit it in the portal too. But linebacker, I just think that's what it is. Telvin Smith was 2013 was his last year. He was a 2010 recruit. And then Matthew Thomas was 13. And then it's just been a bunch of guys that haven't really wowed you. And they played, but they weren't just nothing special, man. And you, as a fan, I do think you want special at every position. You're not going to get it because you're not 2018 Alabama or 2022 Georgia. You're not going to be able to recruit at an elite level at every position every year. But you'd like to get a linebacker or two. I don't want to diminish what Blake Nicholson is, though, man. Blake Nicholson was a coveted linebacker and a pretty highly ranked linebacker. And I think it diminishes him to just continue to lament how they don't bring in big-time recruits when Blake Nicholson is on your roster. And Justin Cryer might be really good, man. I've been impressed by him. He wasn't a 5-star, but Blake Nicholson was a 4-star and a really good athlete. And Justin Cryer, I think, might be a really good college football player that just wasn't ranked that high. But I get the lamenting. I get the hand-wringing a little bit because of it. The answer to the question on the screen, I don't know, because you can't just say it's Randy Shannon. There have been coaches before Randy Shannon, head coaches, linebacker coaches, defensive coordinators, and it was never really working. So I don't know. I don't know why the linebackers in this country or in the really highly ranked elite linebackers continue to spurn Florida State. Does it make sense? But yes, like Aslan, I'm not losing a ton of sleep over it. But I understand the question.
It's just, Kalen DeLoach had like a season-saving play for you against Clemson. Tatum Bethune had a season-saving play for you against Louisville.
Yeah,
it's like you've gotten some production out of them. I can only think of, DJ Lundy had that nightmare against South Bend in 2020, but I mean, he was a true freshman and had really no business being on the field. I think like Tatum Bethune struggled a little bit in coverage on some like rub routes against Clemson in 2022 at home. But like, other than that, that has not been, and listen, they haven't lost a lot of games lately. So there's really not any reason to point a finger at anybody. But if you got to go back to 2022, maybe if you had better linebacker play some of those wheel routes from the tight ends releasing late out of the backfield, maybe you get a little bit of better shot at beating a team like that. But just hasn't cost them a lot. And what I wonder, Corey, and I didn't do any research on this, but I also wonder how many linebackers are being tabbed as 5 stars in this day and age. I just don't, I bet if I looked at 2010, like the top 100, and I looked at the top 100 this year, I bet you there's, I don't know, like maybe like 10 linebackers versus like 6 maybe now, possibly. And then maybe some of the fact that Florida State runs a 4-2-5, but they're not alone in doing that.
Right. Here's what I'd say to all this is that I think that Mike Norvell is a very competitive person, very competitive, and wants to win a lot. And he's got no long-term ties to Randy Shannon. So if you guys think that Randy Shannon is the problem, if you guys think Randy Shannon is holding the program back and the reason they're not signing these recruits, that's a perfectly fine opinion to have. Well, don't be mad at Randy Shannon. Be mad at the head coach that keeps him employed. And so if you trust Mike Norvell on certain, I don't think Mike Norvell would just keep a guy around on his team, on his staff, to be a nice guy. He doesn't strike me as that. He's fired guys before. He's lost plenty of coaches before. So I don't think that's it, because I think Norvell, if he really thought that was a weakness, would be looking to go somewhere else. And as I've talked about before, it's hard to know who any good recruiters are anymore. Because of the way NIL works. It's just hard to know. People a couple weeks ago were complaining about Papuchis, who sent 2 straight guys into the NFL as first-round picks. And Peyton and other guys might join them soon. And Papuchis is getting some tough love. I think it's understandable, and it's a concern that it seemingly, I haven't kept up with this recruiting class enough to know if this is specific to the 2025 kids and all the big-time linebackers keep doing the stiff arm with Florida State. But I will say this, it is the least important position on defense as Florida State is concerned. They only play 2 of them, and they are typically they only play 2 of them, and so it's not like you're missing out on edge rushers. You got a lot of those. You know what I mean? You got some guys in the interior, and you have for years. So you want greatness everywhere. You do, but they do only play 2, and it's clearly not something that's crushing the program because they've won 19 straight games if we don't count the debacle in the Orange Bowl, which I don't.
I don't even know who's considered the number 1 linebacker in the country right now, but I don't think I would trade him for Azareye'h Thomas.
Well, yeah, and you got Azareye'h, you got Hakeem, you've got some big-time Croman Hawk as a quarterback, you've got some big-time running backs. Linebacker is the position since Norvell's been here where it feels like it's just a parade of 3 stars. Yeah. But some 3 stars can play. And we'll see with Cryer, but some 3 stars end up playing like 5 stars. I'm not one of those guys that's like, I'd rather have 83 stars that play hard. No, you need some NFL talent too. And I think that's the issue, man. When you talk about Florida State fans in this position in particular, is when was Telvin Smith the last NFL draft pick at linebacker for this program? That was 11 years ago. That's crazy. I might be missing one. Maybe Matthew Thomas ended up being drafted. I don't remember. But that's crazy that it's been that long since they've had like a star linebacker. But I don't want to, like Aslan said, Deloach and Bethune were very, very good. Who are the up-and-comers? Does it even matter if you can go in the portal and get guys that can play?
I thought maybe Terrence Smith got drafted, but he was an undrafted free agent. So was Matthew Thomas.
Okay.
And I leave you with this. Going back, looking at the rivals back when we were there, 100 back in 2010, there were 4 linebackers in the top 40.
Okay.
Right now on 3 for 2025, there's only 1 linebacker that's in the top 40.
Yeah, it's becoming like the NFL with running backs, because again, it's a pass-heavy sport now. There's not a lot of, you don't see a lot of 250-pound middle linebackers thumping in there that much because the running game in stuff between the tackles just doesn't happen a lot. There's not a lot of traditional running games where you need a 245, 255-pound linebacker ranging from, defensive end to defensive end, plugging up holes and making all those tackles. So that said, yeah, you'd like to recruit the best linebackers in the country. You want to do that at every position. But I don't know if there's one thing. Like all the linebackers are just like, I can't play for Randy Shannon. Randy Shannon got good play out of Deloach and Tatum Bethune. Now, you could say they were veterans. They were 22, 23 years old. They played a lot of football, sure. But if we're just judging on how those 2 guys played, they, one was a 7th-round pick, one wasn't a draft pick at all, but they were very productive in college. You should give credit for the way they played the last year and a half.
Cummins Lifestyle, go follow them over on Instagram. Florida State alums supporting this endeavor. We appreciate them. If you appreciate us, just go hit follow. Just one little button. Random_John Corey says, good morning, guys. Hope you're both feeling great today. Yesterday, you both talked about how Corey lapped Aslan in upper body strength and power. How did this happen? Corey, are you eating at the Bama table? Is it deer antler spray? How did your rickety old bones and bum shoulders surpass the youthful exuberance of Aslan in the gym? Corey, please share with us your old man wisdom and maybe some additional sauna etiquette for the wake-up crowd. Don't talk on your phone, I assume, whilst in there. What are your thoughts on making eye contact, though, in the sauna? Anyways, next week I'm off to New York City to do some work with the rail companies. All right, speaking of that, I wonder where Vanderbilt was on that list, Corey, of most influential people. Have a great weekend, everyone. Go Noles.
I looked that up. Well, let me answer the question first. I hope you have a great time in New York. Also, I think Aslan is, he's.
You kill me in bench. You're like repping out. You're repping. I don't even think I can rep 185 anymore, man. Which is sad. But I don't work chest anymore. That's the problem. If I probably started focusing,
and that's all I work.
Really?
That's all I work. So I do a rower a lot because of Orange Theory. So I'm rowing a lot and doing like upright rows and just the stuff that they have you do there.
A lot of pulling, which is good. Pulling, and then you're doing pushing on the bench press.
Pulling and pushing. But the problem with Orange Theory, and I love it, is that I don't want to be they don't. For me now, they do chest press, But most of the people there, and I'm not taking shots at people because it's not all, and there are women that are stronger than me, clearly, but most of the people there are women that are doing like 20-pound chest presses or 30-pound chest presses like Stephanie. But I don't want to be the clown that goes over and gets the 80s and walks over and just like, hey, coach, help me lift these up so I can
rep them out.
Pump out 10 of these. So I do most of my – but I try to do chest like 3 or 4 days a week, and I've just been doing it for a while. One thing I did find out, Aslan, and I'm not too proud to admit this, I've been taking creatine for like a month.
Yeah, update me on this.
So I got a big jar/jug of creatine. Didn't do any research. It just said creatine.
Okay.
And but I knew I wanted to take 5 grams a day. Some people say you load with 20 for a week, and then you go down to 5 a day. I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm almost 50. I'm just going to do 5 grams a day. I'm not, who am I, Lou Ferrigno over here? What am I, I was trying to think of another one. Teddy Atlas.
Franco Colombo.
Yeah, the Mr. Wonderful. So I was doing 5 grams a day, but I got my own tablespoon to do it because there was no measurement in the big, huge jar of powder.
Buried. It gets buried all the way at the bottom, probably.
Yeah, would have liked to have known that because I just found it. And the scoop is 5 times what I've been using. Okay. Because apparently it's not all just creatine. That's part of it. But there's like amino acids in there. They don't want it. It's not just straight creatine.
Right.
So when you do a full scoop of this thing, which is enormous, it's only 8 grams of creatine, but it's a lot of other stuff. Well, I've been doing 1/6 of that. So I've been doing, instead of doing even 5 grams of creatine a day, I've been doing about 1.5 for a month.
And having good results, though, yes?
I mean, I guess. But I might be able to lift a house now if I had been doing what they said. But why would the scoop be... Like, I don't even know how I was supposed to get to it. It was buried so deep. Was I supposed to dump it all out and find the scoop and then try to slide it back in? That was nuts.
I think those manufacturers assume that we've already purchased their product before, so we have, like, the scoop from the one that we just ran out of. But, no, you're totally right. It happens way too often. I don't know, maybe just a small piece of tape to the lid on the underside of the lid. Maybe we can start doing that in our
because I'd never done it before, so I just thought, I guess they expect you to have your own measurement for the creatine. That's fine. Well, I had Stephanie, when I finally found it last night, it was like digging through a box of cereal, and you finally got the prize way down at the bottom. When it finally is like, what is this that I'm hitting? Oh, that's a scoop. Oh, that's a lot bigger than what I've been using. She did some research and told me, that scoop has 8 grams of creatine. And then compared to my tablespoon, teaspoon thing that I was using, it was. But yeah, basically, I don't do a lot of other stuff in the gym, but bench and biceps and farmer carries. It's sauna. God, I love the sauna, especially when people talk and play YouTube videos on their phone at volume because they don't apparently have AirPods or headphones of any kind. That's pretty cool.
Do you take your phone into the sauna?
I do, but I listen to music in my AirPods.
Okay.
They don't.
Right.
They're just listening to it loudly because, So I think the etiquette is not to talk to people is my thought in the sauna. You're trying to relax. People are in there for 12 or 15 minutes. Just make eye contact, maybe a nod, maybe a thumbs up. I don't know why you give a thumbs up to someone when they walk into a sauna. That'd be weird. But
welcome.
Yeah, well, hey, welcome. Sit down, hey. But, yeah, other than that, just, kind of stare straight ahead.
Board shorts or just a towel around the waist?
No, I go in there with clothes on, for sure.
Stop.
I go in there with shorts. I take my shirt off, but I go in there with shorts. Yeah.
I thought you were walking out with like a T-shirt and your shorts on. Like, what
Some people walk in there with a sweatsuit on.
Well, I get that because they were trying to go hardcore and like really get all the water weight out of them. But all right, I'm jealous. I don't have sauna access. I probably would hop in there if I did.
I told at the Biloxi the other day. That's the other thing. I do it a lot. Like I always try to do something every day active. So I was at Biloxi on Monday at a casino. Had a long night of a lot of drinking. Still got up
and winning money.
Still got up the next day, and after eating breakfast and gambling a little bit, I went and did about a 45-minute workout. And on that Smith machine, which it helps you a little bit. I know it's not an actual bench. I did 2 reps of 245. So, but that's a Smith machine, so that probably equates to like 1 rep at 225, which is probably where I'm at. That's probably my max.
That's
awesome,
I'm
going to keep everyone posted.
What do you weigh? Like 170, 160?
I weigh right at a little less than 160.
Yeah, man, doing 225, man.
Should I enter? Is there like a competition I can enter?
Yeah,
For like under 160, over 50?
Physique
I got that in a
contest.
year or two. Yeah.
We'll see if we can make it happen, man. We'll certainly try. All right, moving along. The Walking Nolo 1. Heyo, insert question that generates discussion. Aslan, if you don't find a spot where you can ask Link about the home run derby, that's fine. I know he usually takes a ton of other questions. Thanks for trying. Which, real quickly, I did ask him off camera because, we didn't have all that much time to speak to him before he hopped on the bus. But I did ask him when I was taking the microphone off him, like, are they going to bring it back? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, do you miss it at all? I'm like, do you want them to bring it back? He's like, don't really care. Because I think
what back?
The college home run derby, which I think they would actually do it after.
Yeah,
I think they did it after the season was over, and they would bring the people back to Omaha, like the players. But it's like, yeah, man, like everyone's moved on at that point. But yeah, I think COVID happened, so when there was no College World Series in 2020, obviously it stopped. I think they were going to try to bring it back for 21, but COVID was still around. Ask NC State. Right. So they stopped doing it in 21 as well. So they haven't done it. And I looked at they have an official Twitter feed and not a lot of traction on that thing as well either. So let's just hope we'll see it in the course of play. James Tibbs the third, Marco, Ferrer, Cam Smith. Corey, 1.5 if I gave you over under the amount of home runs Florida State will hit at the College World Series. And you can't be like, well, how many games are going to play? And that's the whole part. 1.5. Would you take the over or the under?
Over, for sure. They'll run into a few, absolutely. They won't hit what they hit against UConn, not 10.
Well, I mean, again, we talked about how many would not have gone
12?
over if
so that's
Hauser
what I'm
was
saying.
whole,
But maybe 5 of them would have.
Yeah.
And that was just 2 games. Now they might be facing better pitching. But yeah, no, I think that those guys drive the ball. They do, and they swing with intent. So I do, and I do think they'll you just don't hit it to dead center, pull the ball and it'll go out. I wonder about Cam Smith, because I don't think Cam Smith's swing plays well in that park if you're trying to hit home runs. Not that you're ever trying to hit a home run. You know what I mean? He doesn't. I think most of his home runs, almost all of them, honestly, have been to right or right center. That's where his power is. He sits back in his stance and lets the ball travel and drives it hard to right field. I don't imagine a lot of right-handed hitters have hit oppo home runs there. Yeah. That just seems something that is like a unicorn. Yeah. So I wonder if he's trying to really drive the ball, if he changes his swing a bit, knowing he can't do it in TDM or whatever we're calling it now, Charles Schwab, he's going to try to pull the ball more. And I don't want him to do that. Triples in the gap, Cam. That's what you're looking for. Gap me with some triples, buddy. That's your goal.
On to the question. You two talk about the days before Super Regionals were introduced. What did they do before Super Regionals? What was the format like? Better or worse than now?
Worse. It was 8 regions. I guess it was 8 regions of 6 teams.
Yeah,
right?
48 teams in total.
So there were only 48 teams invited. It was 8 regions of 6 teams. So Florida State would be the 1 seed playing the 6 seed. So you win that game, you have a winner's bracket game, and if you win that, you're in the championship round while all those other teams got to fight it out. And by the time they get to you, typically, they're completely out of pitching. And that's why Florida State went to the College World Series so much up until 1999. I think it started in 99 or 2000.
Correct, 99.
And then, they would go, Aslan, 80% of the time in those previous 2 decades. And since 99, they've been there 5 times. So and that's not, that's not just them doing that. It's just really hard now. It's harder for these programs that have a lot of pitching, better pitching than most of the other teams in there. They can go to their 3rd or 4th starter and beat your 9th starter easily. And so that's why Florida State, one of the reasons, I mean, obviously recruiting and they were really good, but that's one of the reasons those all the same teams, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons you saw most of the same teams appear there every year, because it was such an advantage to host a regional when it was a 6-team regional. Or as Jeff Cameron calls them, a sub-regional.
Looking at the bracket from back in 98, Corey, Florida State ended up beating Auburn that year to make it to the College World Series. Auburn had to play 5 games in 5 days. just to get a shot at Florida State.
So when would it start?
It started May 21st, and then the regional championship was May 24th. So
So it wasn't 5 days.
No, it's 4 days.
5
I'm
days,
sorry.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 4 days. So they played 5 games in 4 days.
Yeah.
And these are their scores. They lost to Rutgers in their first game 17-15. Then they beat Liberty 3-2, beat Rutgers 7-4, beat Oklahoma 9-8, and then they got Florida State beat Liberty 10-7 core in their first game, beat Delaware 27-6, beat Oklahoma 23-2.
I think Matt Diaz hit 4 home runs in that game.
And then took out Auburn 16-10.
Yeah, because everybody was out of pitching. So again, it's crazy they played Delaware in the second game. But also it was good. But I was going to bring up maybe literally it might be the toughest postseason loss Florida State's ever had, and they've had a lot to choose from. It's certainly in the top 5. Was at the regional against Auburn that year before in '97. Winners bracket game against Auburn. I think they had a 2-run lead with 2 outs in the ninth. Of course, Auburn's the home team in the bottom of the ninth because why wouldn't they be at Dick Howser Stadium? And David Ross, a lot of people know this, but David Ross had a walk-off 3-run homer that sent Florida State to the losers bracket. Well, they still won the next game, so they got to play Auburn again, and I think they beat Auburn the first time they played them again. But Auburn had saved Tim Hudson. So even Auburn wouldn't have been able to save Tim Hudson for the clinching game. Auburn would have had to use Tim Hudson, and then they still would have had to beat Florida State again. Well, they didn't have to do that because of that walk-off homer in the regional in '97.
I didn't know that. I mean, I know the whole David Ross thing, but I didn't realize that they ended up getting another crack at them and everything. But they did
I think they beat them the second time they played them, but Auburn had saved Tim Hudson and then beat them like I don't know, man, 4-2, 3-1, something like that. And that was JD. The reason it was so painful, it was JD Drew's last year. And it was a very good team. It was one of the best teams in the country. And J.D. Drew crushed it in Omaha, and you really wanted to see him because he was the best player in the country that year. You wanted to see him get another shot, and he didn't. Yeah,
so Florida State ends up having to beat USF 6-5 in the consolation bracket, comes back and beats Auburn 9-7, but then falls 5-2 the next time around. So
Old Huddy, man, he could deal. He could also hit. He was a really good college hitter, too.
I have the wrong one here. I was going to try to pull up his I want to see his line that day. Oh, but I don't have this. That's not the correct one because I don't see old Huddy here for Auburn. They had some guy showing who went 4.5. Or 4 1/3. Right. I'm sorry, and then Hancock went 3 1/3. So maybe you're either misremembering it or they don't have the actual correct box score. Which it's them not having the correct box score. Nole fan has erred. I can't believe it.
I can't believe that either.
Lost all faith in humanity. Tennis Ump, y'all. Wake up. How much fun have you guys had doing the top 40? And it has been fun seeing how much all of you have struggled. But this time it is because the talent is so deep as opposed to prior years. Do you foresee more of the same in the years going forward, provided that we keep Norvell? Thanks again for all you do. I don't know. I hope we get a return to 2023, man, where it's just studs on top of studs, and it's picking nits. I remember Corey and I arguing over, like you put Jaheim Bell in front of Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman should be ahead of Jaheim Bell. Like, those are the arguments we're having. I want that all the time.
How dare you question NoleFan.org? It took me 7 seconds. Auburn's Tim Hudson struck out 12 batters in 8 innings as the Tigers defeated FSU 5-2 and advanced to the College World Series.
Did you type on box score or post game?
I went to post game.
I hit box.
Oh, well, there you go. Come on. Get it together, Aslan.
But no, even in that one. Which game are you saying that they threw Hudson in? Because he want to hit
the 5-2 game, the clincher, the one that sent them to Omaha, the last game of the regional.
Okay, for some reason it put me to the 9-7 file. But yeah, you're right. We went
8 innings.
How come they don't have all of his line?
2 runs and struck out 12 because he was awesome. Like borderline, well, not a borderline. He was a Major League All-Star. And they got to say, it's crazy they got to save him for the final game.
JD went 0 for 4. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think he grounded out with the bases loaded in a late inning. Yeah, it's tough. Right. James Tibbs didn't do that, did he?
Charlie Condon did that kind of too. I think he had some.
That's right. He struck out with the bases loaded in a big spot there. That's right. What? Jeez, man. Good job, Charlie.
Golden Spikes, sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
the top 40 is it's fun. It's different this year because it's so many unknowns. But yeah, it's fun. We don't like really argue about it that much, but it is cool to see. It's interesting. Maybe cool's not the right word. It's interesting to see how our rankings fluctuate so much from person to person, because this is an eye of the beholder team. Like I think, like we talked about on headlines on Wednesday, an abbreviated version of headlines, but that's out there for you folks. So go listen to it or watch it. Durajai, like they didn't seem to be as high on Durajai as I am. I think Durajai is going to be a big time contributor on this team. They didn't see it like that. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just, as you mentioned last week, some people had Fisk in the 20s last year.
Yeah. Not these guys, though.
We had him at 7, but we missed on other ones. The point being, that was rare. Most of us had about the same guys in the top 15 or 20. Right. Just shuffled. We probably all had the top 25. They were just shuffled a little bit. This is all over the map. Some guys are at like 16th or 18th that aren't even on anybody's top 40 in the other ones. It's just a weird year with a lot of unknowns.
Daryl Jackson was 8th on the top 40 last year, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, that's the risk you run when you do them in June.
Yeah. You and I had him at 12th. So
yeah, we were. Yeah, I knew he wasn't a top 10 contributor.
Top 40's been great. Not as great as the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Can't make it to Omaha? Join the club. And then go and join all the Florida State fans that'll be at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill watching it on Friday night. We might also be having a watch-along, everybody. Not sure we're going to bring D-Rob out from the bullpen. He played baseball, too, everybody. He can maybe help us out with some analyzation of what's going on out there. But head over there for your lunch special if you don't want to stay for the game. But I think you should grab your lunch and come back for the game. Lunch special for Friday is going to be the chicken strip basket. But today on Thursday is the cheesesteak sandwich, chicken or steak, and a side dish of your choice for only $8.99. That's from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, always a great time. Live music, probably on the weekend, right, Corey? Probably?
Well, no, I wouldn't, because they
the baseball
usually do.
Game?
Yeah, they usually do live music on Friday nights, but with the baseball game, I would assume it's going to be a baseball-heavy crowd in there. It's going to be on the Vegas wall, which is a huge TV, and it's going to be all Florida State baseball in there. So go cheer on the Noles.
Man, we've been jogging. We got to pick up the pace. It's my fault here.
Let's do it.
Nole for Life, Class 2007. Wake up, fellas. That turncoat, Greg McElroy, interviewed Mike Norvell this week on his podcast. As usual, our great coach was gracious in answering questions and representing Florida State well. That said, if you were Mike Norvell and you had the opportunity to say anything you wanted to Nick Saban's boot lackey, what mic drop statement would you make?
Yeah, we talked about this on headlines too. I didn't see or hear the interview, didn't see it. And yeah, Norvell's never going to be rude, like outwardly rude. He wouldn't even be like that to Herb Street. But if I was Mike Norvell, I would have said, hey man, I really do appreciate how even in the early years, in the early months, you backed me. You were one of my biggest champions. You kept telling Florida State fans and anybody that would listen on your platforms that you believed in me and my vision and loved the way I ran a practice and I ran a program, and you believed I was going to turn this around. And I really do appreciate that, sincerely. With that said, what changed in your mind from Thanksgiving to that Sunday of the selection show where you said the whole season, or at least after Jordan got hurt, that you thought we deserved to be in the playoff if we went undefeated? What changed? What changed by that Sunday morning when you were telling everybody that was listening and watching that you thought Alabama belonged? And that would be my question. Just to make him squirm a little. He's not going to tell you the truth, which is he already knew. that he already knew that Alabama had made it. That again, as Michael Alford said, as Jeff and I and Ira and you said, last December, once we saw that Marty Smith was in Tuscaloosa, and whoever that guy was, they said, is it Lyles?
Harry Lyles Jr.
Harry Lyles was in Tallahassee. We knew the deal. At least I knew the deal, or I had a pretty good inkling. Like, that's not a good sign at all that Marty Smith is in Alabama. So they knew. ESPN knew. They had to know. And McElroy knew. And then that's why he was saying what he said.
Well, do you think ESPN told them to do that? Is that what everybody's been?
I probably. I don't know. I don't know why they would have done it. I think it's his alma mater. It's the program he came up from. He wanted to, he didn't want to be look like a traitor by saying, I don't agree with this. I think Florida State should be in, especially when in 30 minutes he would be proven wrong. So what was the benefit for him at that point, other than looking like he went back on his word completely? And I know we got to fly along, but that would have been my only question. I wouldn't have been a jerk about it. I wouldn't have whined about it. I wouldn't have brought it up again. I would have asked them in that moment, I have to clear the air here, man. I have to get something off my chest. And then I would have said that. I would have said, what changed? Because 3 or 4 days prior, you were saying that you believed in Florida State's, if we won, that we belonged in because we were undefeated, even if we had a backup quarterback. What changed? And also, maybe I would have added, Greg, if you had been knocked out in the third quarter of the championship game in 2009 against Florida, in the SEC championship game, but your team won anyway, do you feel like you belonged in the national championship game, or should they have taken someone else? Did you earn the right to be there? You and your 42 yards passing. But Norvell's nicer than I am, so he wouldn't probably go that route.
Yeah, I didn't hear it. I saw the thread. There was a lot of comments on it. I think cooler heads are starting to maybe kind of prevail in it. But I get it. I understand. It's hard to win. Hard to put a team together that's capable of winning a national championship. You had that. You were not given the opportunity.
I just don't want it to be like, oh, why are you bringing that up? Like we haven't started the next season yet. Like, don't tell people to get over it. And I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to, like, the rest of the college football world. Y'all still whining about that? And that was Jeff's point, is you don't want to look like you're still whining about something months and months later. But I'm like, okay, but I think the statute of limitations is at least up until kickoff in Dublin. And then you're on to a new season. Everything's fine. Maybe you want to say August 1st, whatever. But it was a horrible decision that had never been done before that really impacted a football team and a fan base in a horrible way. Now, it's not life or death, like our man of the century. Well, I mean, it's not anything close to that serious, but it was an insult to everybody listening to this show. And it was an insult to Mike Norvell. And don't let them just say, man, get over it. Let's move on. No, we'll move on when we're ready to move on. And that will probably be in Dublin. But we'll never forget it. But we'll move on when we're ready to move on. And I think when McElroy or Herbstreit sits in front of these Mike Norvell, I think personally he owes it to his fan base to push back. Because I think Nick Saban would push back. I think Kirby Smart would push back. I think Mike Norvell wants to push back, but doesn't want to look like a whiner and a complainer, and I get it. But in this moment, I think it's galvanizing for your fan base for you to fight for them. And I think when Herbstreit sits down with him at some point, whenever that is, I think he owes it to his fan base to bring it up and say how hurtful it is that a guy that played the sport, it did not play played the position, but did not play it very well at the college level. But he played the position and started at Ohio State, can sit there and say that Alabama deserves it because Florida State doesn't have their starting quarterback. As if, they just lost their starting front court in the NBA, in a college basketball championship. You know what I mean? It's always going to be bizarre and hurtful. And we know it's not even the real reason. I truly believe that if Jordan Travis was 100% healthy, Florida State does not make the college football playoff. And I'm sticking to it.
It'd be nice if he had some sort of like one-liner. Like I don't need I know a lot of people want like a combative kind of exchange, but it would just be funny if he could find like in the course of the discussion to bring it up somehow, where like it was like a good like a good burn, or something, just. But like I don't even. I don't know. There's got to be some. I'm sure, he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out some way. But
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I do think like his number one job, his only real job, is to win football games. We get it. Yeah. But he does have a constituency. He's got a fan base that feels jilted and slighted.
I know, but they're able to communicate that to all these people. Like Greg McElroy knows that he's not liked, and Kirk Herbstreit knows that he's disliked.
But none of these people get to talk to Herbstreit one-on-one. He gets a chance to represent Florida State Nation. And It would be a dereliction of duty, in my opinion.
That's beneath him, though, man. Like I don't want to see my head coach doing
what do you mean?
that, man.
What do you mean? It's not like he's
like
gonna
to troll him almost. You know, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Like say, hey, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Do you think it's beneath Nick Saban? Because he did that shit all the time. Sorry, he did that stuff all the time. Like, it's not beneath you to, if you feel slighted, to tell the person that slighted you that you slighted me. That's not beneath you. It's not beneath Kirk Herbstreit to get on Twitter and do all the crazy stuff he does. So I think as a leader of a fan base, as a leader of a program, and people that pay a ton of money to give him that roster, a ton of money, he owes it to those people, in my opinion, if he sits down with Kirk Herbstreit, not to have a gotcha moment.
You just wanted him to get you a gotcha moment, man.
You think what I asked McElroy was a gotcha moment?
Absolutely. Like, you're wanting him to walk you through all the permeations of, like, why he ends up siding up with, like, ESPN and putting a dagger in you at the last second. Like, he even had a vote. Like, he was even being heard in Grapevine, Texas.
But you don't think people would be interested in that? Like, his reaction to that question?
I'm sure, like, there's a loud part of this fan base that would love that, but I don't think he could handle this thing in a way where he can be like, listen, I'm really excited about the way that we've built off the anger. The anger that you guys have seen off social media, like, we have felt that, and maybe we haven't talked about it as a team, and you haven't heard it from me, Greg, but, like, that will energize me in this program, not only this year, but every year moving forward as competitors. And there's ways you can bring it up where it's like you don't have to get to the bottom of some sort of conspiracy that was occurred and you were betrayed in the most painful way by the people that you thought had your back.
I don't think asking McElroy what changed is saying that there's a conspiracy. You can act genuinely interested.
I thought Brock Glenn looked really bad, and then I had second thoughts about whether or not Tate Rodemaker was going to look that much better because I thought Florida was pretty lousy on the whole this season.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, he could say that, but after the Florida game when Rodemaker played, he was still saying that Florida.
I know that's what but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll add second thoughts on it or something. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And I just think, again, whether it's the right thing or wrong thing to do, I think sometimes you have to placate to your audience, and I don't think people want him to rise above. I don't want it to be in this just once. Just once. It's not like every time he sees Herbstreit for the rest of time, he'll be staring daggers at him and punching him in the shoulder. I think that just once, for your fan base, for your constituency, you are allowed to tell the person that I think, in my opinion, was one of the ringleaders of the whole thing, that you didn't appreciate it. Didn't appreciate it, especially coming from a competitor like Kirk Herbstreit that played the position at the highest level at Ohio State. For him to have those takes that he had, for him to seemingly beat the drumbeat of the SEC, was frustrating. And it was frustrating to the fan base, and then move on talking about DJ, if that's what you want to do. But, it's up, you don't always have to – what was the thing they said in the Trump, Clinton? They go low, we go high. You don't always have to go high. You could go low too, and you can meet the lowness with some lowness, some pettiness yourself. All right, rapid fire, Aslan. Let's go.
He should say something about the fact that all we're worried about is winning our conference. Like, all we're worried about is winning our conference.
Because we know we can get in then.
Is that? Can you confirm that?
They can't keep us out.
Can you confirm that? Like, there's going to be some smart alecky comment. And listen, I'm all about making them uncomfortable, but I think there's a sly level of doing it. And like, you are right. There were times where Saban would use that press conference to be like, well, listen, like, we play in this conference. I think we've got the best players and we play the toughest schedule. But he would always say it in a way where he was letting you know, but he wasn't throwing a fit over it. I don't know. There's a fine line.
Yeah, but I don't think Norvell would do that either. Like,
right.
I would embarrass myself.
Well, I think there's certain people that want him not to, like, make a fool out of himself, but they want to see some kind of, like, fire and brimstone.
No, and you don't want that, though. You don't, because there is a downside to that, is you do look like a whiner and a complainer and a big baby. There is a middle ground there that I think everyone in the country would understand. If he's talking with Herbstreit before the Georgia Tech game 2 weeks before or whatever, that they would understand. But you don't want to harp on it, because also you got a whole new team to worry about. It is last year, but that doesn't mean we're just supposed to get over it, because it was an all-time snub. It just was. It made no sense at the time. It makes even less sense now, and people have a right to be angry, and they also have a right to want to hear their head coach angry, talking to the people that we think had a lot to do with it. Just be angry for a little bit and then move on and be cordial.
Island Chief, wake up. Just like when a pitcher is throwing a no-no, not going to talk about it. Not making predictions. I'm just going to watch and enjoy.
There you go. Nice.
Aslan, I imagine you choose opening music for each episode, and they usually relate to a topic in the show. In the near future, you're going to have to pick the song that opens a show after Florida State has announced we are out of the ACC. What do you have queued up? Do you take requests?
Oh,
I certainly do. Random_John says to play Take This Job and Shove It. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
You can't play a lot of that song.
Right.
You could play a little bit of it.
We're not going to take it by Twisted Sister, he says. And frankly, Mr. Shankly by the Smiths.
Okay.
Which some girl had that in her dating. This is weird. Like a few years ago, I had that in her dating bio. Like, if you know who the Smiths are, first drink's on me. And then I'm like, I have no idea who the Smiths are. And she was like, so
Wikipedia
offended.
Works.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I could have lied.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good way to start a relationship. You don't want to start it on a lie.
No.
And be like, I'm a huge Smiths fan.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything that comes in your mind, Corey, that's like a really good, like, shove it, like, we're out of here?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second. What about Seminole Wind? How about that? Does that work?
Oh, man. Seminole Carol, Wake Up Warchant, Rise and Shine.
Maybe Creed?
Okay. My Own Prison, though, but we're leaving it.
I was thinking Arms Wide Open or Can You Take Me Higher?
All right. Yeah, like Big Ten, SEC, Greg
Yeah.
Sankey, Tony Petito, Arms Wide Open. I got you. Seminole Carroll's got a little fired up speech for us here. Rise and shine for our sensational Seminole baseball team. 3 touchdowns and a field goal for FSU and a field goal and a conversion safety, or more like 2 safeties for UConn. I jest. It really is a super regional baseball score setting historic records this past weekend by our Seminole baseball team. Way to run across home plate 24 times. Then on to the next day, where they call me Mr. Tibbs, also known in my eyes as the Seminole baseball home run king, who seals our fate for the win to become Omaha bound. Therefore, Link Jarrett has to be the all-time best coach ever in collegiate baseball to dramatically turn around a program in a year's time, probably the best one in a short length of time in all of Seminole sports history. So with all that said, this leads me to my question. Oh, there's a question here, Corey. What football player and what baseball player has turned his game around drastically in 1 year's time as this coach has with our baseball program? Go Seminole baseball.
That's a really hard one. I don't think there is one. That maybe. Well, no, I was going to say Winky, but he got really good in '98, even
Charlie
after the
Ward.
6 interception
Charlie
game.
Ward, 90.
Charlie Ward in the middle of '92 was awful. He's throwing 4 interceptions a game. I think he threw 12 interceptions in the first 10 interceptions in the first 3 games. It was crazy. But yeah, so he's not a bad one, but he was still winning games and putting up highlight plays too. It just the turnovers. I'm still lamenting those turnovers, Charlie. The first one that came to mind, weirdly, was
Trent
Phil
Forrest?
Kofer. No, Phil Kofer.
Okay.
He became a really good three-point shooter, and I think he had a chance to be an NBA probably first-round draft pick if he didn't get hurt again right before his senior year, because I think he was like when they made it to the Elite Eight, he was the best player on the team against Michigan and the game before. He was 6'9", could shoot,
Gonzaga,
could
by the way,
defend.
right?
Yeah, they beat Gonzaga, and then they were in the game with Michigan. I think Kofer was their best player in that game, and he had just turned into a guy that every time he shot, when he was a freshman or sophomore, you're like, "What are you doing, man? Go get in the paint. What are you doing with this?" By the time he was there at Florida State, he was a good shooter. He was one of their better three-point shooters, so that was good to see. But I don't think he certainly hasn't had a Link Jarrett type turnaround. He was always okay. He just went from okay to good. Who went from like bad to good? Can you think of anybody?
Where I was just like,
Charlie Ward's a good answer.
I mean, Jordan, but he wasn't like terrible. But it was just, 2020 wasn't great.
If you
And it was
look
a
at what
gradual
he
growth.
was, from 2021 to 2022 was a really big turnaround, man. Like if you think about what he looked like for a large portion of that Notre Dame game, until what he looked like the first game of the next year against LSU. I guess technically that was the second game. Man, that's a huge leap. That's a huge turnaround. He went from a guy who could win games with his legs, who was okay, to a guy that was one of the best players at one of the best quarterbacks in the country in the span of a year. And we didn't believe it. We weren't sure what we were seeing was real. But obviously now we know what we saw was very much real. He was awesome. And he turned himself around starting in 2021 but into 22. I think he's my answer.
Okay. There's something I wanted to add, but we got to keep this thing moving.
Jamie Arnold wasn't very good last year. All things considered, right?
Oh,
he wasn't this.
I thought, was Billy Strode a guy that struggled and Jeff had like some sort of weird inside joke and then Billy Strode ended up being like a really good closer?
Yeah, he ended up being a closer. I think so, yeah. But I don't think it was like a Jamie Arnold type turnaround. Yeah. But, I mean, look, man, to go from the worst season in school history.
Oh, that's what I meant to mention. I'm sorry, Corey. Somebody asked, has anybody ever gone from sub 500 to Omaha? And I'm like, surely there has to be somebody. Man, I probably researched for 30 minutes before I found it out, and I probably should have started there. But Georgia actually did. 2007, they were 6-7 games below 500, and then in 2008, they actually were the nation's runner-up.
Yeah, so they got a one-game lead on Fresno State and then lost the next two in the championship series.
Yeah. I mean, I checked like Coastal. I mean, I was checking all these, like Coastal made it. Oral Roberts made it last year, I think. I'm looking at all these teams
you
that like
checked
snuck
every
in.
all 8 teams of the College World Series dating back to 2008?
No, I was just thinking in my mind. I'm like, what team is likely? I'm like, it's none of these power. Like Vanderbilt is always going to be above 500. The Gators are usually above 500. I'm like, it's probably going to be Coastal or Fresno or like one of these teams that snuck into the College World Series. And I'm looking at them like, nope. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, we might have some real history here, but then I'm like, look, Georgia snuck in that one. Didn't they win it one year? Like
1990, buddy.
And I looked them up, and sure enough, 2007 they were sub 500, then 2008 they were the runner-up. So it has happened, but it's very.
I think Florida had a sub 500 record, maybe about 10 years ago. I feel like they finished the season under 5. The year that Florida State hosted Indiana in the Supers,
14.
I think Florida finished that year. I think that was that 14 or 13?
14 was 13 was Indiana. I'm sorry, 13 was.
Yeah. So I think in 2013, Florida might have finished with a losing record or a sub 500 record. But I don't know if they made the Omaha the next year or not. And I also don't know if they even finished sub 500 in 2013. I feel like they were close.
They did, but they only made a regional in 14. They made it to the World Series in 15.
So I was right. They were below 500 in 13?
Yeah, they were 29 and 30.
Yeah, I think the only reason I think I remember that, other than I'm incredible, is that
that might be one of your greatest ones. That
was a crazy pull,
you've
right?
Committed Florida to your memory, you sicko.
I think they maybe they lost to Indiana. Maybe they played Indiana in the regional, and that's why I know it. I feel like there was something weird, like they had to go to the Indiana regional and lost to them or something.
That is correct.
Okay.
They never played them though, but they went to that regional. They lost to
went
Austin. They lost to Austin P and they lost to Valpo.
In my mind, they should have fired O'Sullivan then. They're ridiculous for hanging on to that guy.
That's crazy. Well, they went to the World Series the year before that. And
then 2 years after that. Like, what a weird hiccup that was.
2010, they make the World Series. 2011, they're the runner-up. 2012, they go back to Omaha. 13, they go below 500.
Yeah. And then 14, they make a regional. 15, they go back to Omaha. A couple years later, they win the
16, Omaha. 17, win it all. 18, Omaha. That's going to be us, everybody. That's going to be us now. So
I wonder what the 10-year reunion of that 2013 Florida baseball team was like. Like, what did they do? They just meet at a rest area on 75? Like, good grief.
What is that place called off 75, the Gentleman's Club? That's not such a gentleman's club.
Oh, I can't remember the name of it. I know their sign used to say butt naked with B-U-T-T, not buck naked, but butt naked. What is the name of that? It doesn't matter. Let's move on. This show's gone way too long.
We're done, actually. But somebody says,
good.
Southernmost Seminole says, love the show. Wouldn't change a thing, except you got to change that wake up at the beginning back to System of a Down. It was so perfect. I put in Jameis Winston yelling, wake up. Cafe Risque.
There it is. Good job, Aslan. How did you look that up?
Gainesville Strip Club Interstate.
There you go. Perfect. That should be on Nole Fan.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll fix the intro. Maybe not for today's show, but I'll go back and I'll see what I can do to get Surge from System of a Down back on.
Yeah, man, that's a great jam. That's a great song.
Yeah. All right, we're done. Maybe a show tomorrow, but it would only be me and a guy from Tennessee talking about the game. So soft maybe on that. We'll see how it all goes. Jeff Cameron show, though, and we might have a watch-along Friday, so stay
And
posted.
also, Ira, we're sending Ira to Omaha,
He's there.
so he'll be out there. So get on the boards for some live interaction with Ira. Read all the stories and video. Look at all the videos that he gives you from the great state of Nebraska.
That's right. He's Corey Maslow. Thanks for listening to Wake Up War Chant, presented by Vitamin Energy.